and we're recording. Greetings to the listeners and
Hello.
to the people who watch. Today I have a super cool guest, Johnnie. Johnnie Bailey is also your artist name?
It is also my artist name.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And do you want to just tell the guests briefly something about you? Introduce yourself to the listeners a bit?
Sure. Well, first, with my artist name is actually my real name. I kind of wish I had a cool artist name like you, Relaxicorn. What a great artist name. But I just ended up going with my name. But I've been so I am a multi-instrumentalist. I started drums as a young child, I guess. I was like in third grade. I picked up piano. I can sing. I can play ukulele, and there are many other instruments other than that I am not proficient at. And I started producing in 2018. And this is something I would love to talk about a little further on. I call myself a mobile music producer. When I started making music, I was limited in what I had access to, and so I actually only made music on mobile devices like iPads and on my iPhone and such. And so quite a few of my early albums, and even still quite a few of my albums, are made completely on an iPad. I don't use a computer at all for it. And yeah, so that's me.
That's super interesting. And yeah, I wish
it'll
I
be
had
fun to talk about. Yeah,
I wish I had like a talent of being able to play different instruments or something. I usually just do beats. And I think if you are capable of those skills, it's actually also a pretty good thing to have your real name as the artist name. Let's say if you get booked as a session artist, you make
that's true.
You make the piano for someone specific, and let's say it goes on in a complete different genre that what you're doing with your main artist name, then people can still find you by just reading the credits. If someone's totally into that piano part and checks the credit who composed that, who played that, you are easy to find.
I hadn't thought about that. I did the composition for a short film, and in it, it's just piano. I just did a really short piano composition, like 5 minutes, and it's under my real name also, right? Because that's how I had to do it. So that's very true. I hadn't thought about that. What's your music? Do you play? You said you do beats. Do you play drums?
Yeah, I have like this drum machine for finger drumming.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
Sometimes I use it, sometimes even not. Sometimes I just have to throw them in because I recently started to invest way more time in the drums, having the loop played for like a short period and then like really dragging till I'm fully satisfied with it, and when I started doing lo-fi beats, I wasn't putting that much of attention in it. I just had fun making music. And yeah, actually I start with making techno beats. And then you have your 4 on the floor kick drum, your snare on the 2 and the 4. And you don't really put much groove into your drums because they are super programmed. And now with beats, that's a whole new world. So a lot of the concepts that I learned, let's say, also in like mixing and mastering, are not really applying that much on getting this real crispy drum presence. You, especially for lo-fi, you cut a lot more low end and high end to get it like softer and not that transient. and also not like, yeah, don't have to really spend much time on a perfect sub bass. That was always like the hard part in making a good techno song. Like getting that super low end that's usually sound muddy as hell to be
Mm.
clean and press and having this pressure when played in a club. You know, that was always another aspect. So when making a song, you really had to go to a club, and as a DJ, that was not a big deal. And you had to play your unreleased songs just to see if the pressure is there, if the ground is shaking when the subs are coming in, all that stuff.
That's so interesting. So
Yeah.
I guess another thing I would like to bring up is I'm not really like a lo-fi music producer, right? I say the word lo-fi because people know what that is, but I really make like chill electronic music or like down-tempo electronic music. And this has been a problem for me with trying to get on playlists or anything because it's hard if you don't fit into any of these things specifically, right? But it's interesting because I have a performance background. I do I mostly so when I started young, and I don't know, this is a kind of a weird question, but did you grow up religious?
Um, More or less, to be honest. It's I I grew was born into a Orthodox Catholic family
Oh,
because I was born in
cool.
the Ukraine. Then
Okay.
I came to Switzerland with my mother. She remarried here, and here it's the Roman Catholic religion is
Right.
like the number one religion, or actually the only one from the country.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Yeah, we have like people from all around the world living here that practice other religions, obviously, but from the history of this country, it's Roman Catholic. And somehow, when I was in school, I didn't really paid much attention to it, and now that I grew older, I kind of came back into this. You know, I, I, I really I went out of the church pretty young, and now I'm kind of interested in that topic, and it flows kind of back.
Right. Well, my day job here, I've lived in Japan. I guess I didn't say this. I was born in the United States. I grew up in Chicago, in like the inner city of Chicago, and that's where I met my wife. And 10 years ago, my wife and I moved to Japan, where I live now. One of the reasons also of like using mobile devices and small things is we have a very small house. And we don't have space for a lot of stuff. Like this is actually for the visual part of the people watching. This is I have a studio that I rent, so I'm in a rented studio right now because we totally don't have space for like even though this is only 73 keys, I don't have space for a 73 key keyboard in my house. But I grew up, I guess, evangelical Christian in America, and the group that I grew up with music was a very large part of it. And that's where I learned how to play drums as a young, I mean, as a young man. That's where I learned how to play piano. That's where I learned how to sing. And I was a part of this group that believed in and would do. This is gonna sound crazy, but we would do 24-hour like music, like in we would split the day into sessions of 2 hours, and different worship teams would come up and they would sing and they would pray for 2 hours, and we would do that. So when I was homeschooled, so I was really a part of this. And so when I was 14 years old, I was putting in maybe 8 hours a week of like performance time on stage drumming,
But
or if not more.
that's super
It's
cool,
a
actually.
and I would put in maybe 8 hours drumming, maybe 8 to 16 hours drumming a week, 4 to maybe 12 hours playing piano a week, all with sometimes with the same group of musicians, sometimes with different musicians, and that's where I learned how to play music. So I really approach music production almost way more from a performance aspect. So like I always just do my own drums. I don't work with any loops other than ones that I make myself. And I think that's just not to be like snobby, but just it's not how I relate to music, right? Like music was a huge part of my life from when I was, I don't know, 13 years old until close to 20. It was like almost like my full-time job. Like I was doing a lot of drumming, specifically drumming. I drummed a lot. And but then my wife and I, one of the reasons we moved here, my wife teaches English and I'm actually a missionary here. So I manage our home. We have 3 children. I'm a stay-at-home dad. There's a local university here. I work with university students on their English and we talk about faith. And I also have time to make chill music. That's what I enjoy doing. And it's been an interesting thing of, my Japanese is not that great, but it's interesting to see how when I lived in America, I actually wanted to kind of move away from so much musical stuff because I felt like that's what everyone saw me as, right? Oh, that's Johnny, he plays drums, and that was like me.
Yeah, and you could reset your image in a whole new country that way, right?
Right.
Sometimes that's needed.
No, sometimes it's needed, but it was interesting to me because actually one of the things that a lot of the people I work with and like my friends here love is that I play music. So when I moved here, I was so done, but now often they're like, "Oh, Johnny, we want to sing this song." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Here." And they'll like send me a chord sheet, right? I can't read sheet music. I can only read chords. And so I'll sit down at a piano and I'll just play the song and we can play and sing together. And it was a really interesting, I don't know, revelation to me of like being able to connect with people outside of like their conversational English is not so great. My conversational Japanese is not so great, but we can still sing together, or some of them, play bass or play guitar or other instruments and we play together.
Yeah, music can really connect people. And especially, let's say with instrumental music, let's say we take classical music as an example, there's like no need to understand the language to go with the song. And I guess like people like Mozart or Bach are known all around the world and have their influences on people, and really somehow all the how do I explain that right? Like when you take a specific track and everybody all around the world got the same emotional feeling when listening to this composition, that's what really connects, in my opinion.
And it's interesting because, art is so powerful in that way.
Yeah, all kind of art, let's say also painting, but there's a bit more space for individual interpretation, If you're watching a really nice painting and you ask 10 people what they see in this, you will get like 10 different answers. That's super interesting for me as well. I would say I would quickly hop into the one track that you sent me.
Oh, please, go ahead. Yes.
Just so the listeners can also get a taste.
Can I tell you something about this track before we start?
Then
so I actually I stream so I make music. I enjoy it. And I also stream my music making process on Twitch because a lot of my process is performance based. And so like I'll, I like, you'll see like memes where people will be like just like listening to the same sample over and over again and they're like slightly EQing it. I'm not that kind of musician. Like I don't do that kind of stuff. And so I stream on Twitch, and I'm a part of this incredible online community. And every year we do a bunch of charity events where we raise money. And one of the ways that I participate in that is during all of my streams, I'm raising money, but then all of the music I make during that month, I sell the EP on Bandcamp, and I donate all of that money to the charity. So I don't know if you're familiar with Movember, like how in November people don't shave, and it's for awareness for men's health and mental health and like testicular cancer for the Movember Foundation. One of the members in our community, his brother died from testicular cancer. And so this EP, Mustache Beats, if anyone wants to listen to it, I made these songs in November. And if anyone buys that, all of that money will be donated to the Movember Foundation, which supports cancer research and mental health. But please go ahead.
That's a super interesting backstory, and you're doing something really helpful to the community and to the people in this world. That's so inspiring.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool. Okay, let me hop into this. Yeah, man, that's a cool song. I really love how the sounds are like moving through the whole room from right to left and left to right, and it's super cool. Yeah, so you heard it. I just drag it quickly into my other screen so it's recorded as well. Mustache Beats.
Mustache Beats.
And I will definitely link this one to your Bandcamp in the podcast description.
Yes, please. Please.
So the people can really support your charity project and also have a cool copy of an ICP.
Yeah.
That's a win-win situation.
Exactly, right? And they're all $5. I have four EPs out that are for charitable events. I made one called Conflicted Feelings right when the war in Ukraine started. And the artwork for that, if anyone looks for it, if you look under my name, Johnnie Bailey, it's blue and yellow, like the Ukrainian flag. I made one called The World Watches, and it has the Palestinian flag. It looks like that colors. And that one, so I'm donating that money to the UN to help with relief in Gaza. And then I have one called Diabetes Tape, Volume 1. That one is for raising money to cure type 1 diabetes, which my mom has diabetes and quite a few friends of mine do. And then there's Mustache Beats, which is for men's health. It is something I've come to really enjoy doing, making these and marketing them and getting to raise some money. It's really special. It's a lot of fun.
That's such a unique story. I don't follow you for that long now.
Of course, yes, we just met.
Yeah, when did we met? Like a month ago on Instagram?
This is actually really interesting because I approached Lo-Fi Cody about an album idea, and he actually said your name. He said, Relaxicorn is always down to collab, because I was asking him, who would you recommend that I asked on this collab? He's like, man, Relaxicorn will totally say yes. And I was like, who's that?
True.
He's like, oh, he's an artist. So I actually wrote your name down to check you out. And I think you like messaged me on Instagram like within that week. And I was like, oh, hi, yeah, cool.
Yeah, because of your Monday
it was really
update videos.
Oh,
those
right.
are great.
Yes, I put. Thank you. And for the people listening, every Monday, I listen to I listen to music throughout the week, and on Monday, I kind of come back to. I try to limit it to only 5 of like the projects that I listen to.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to be positive about it, so there's no like hating on anything like, oh man, I listened to this and it sucked. Yeah, don't do that. And at first, when I first started doing it, I would also include like bigger artists like Billie Eilish or someone. I don't really do that anymore because Billie Eilish doesn't need my help. And
obviously,
yeah, obviously, but it became. I was really happy with. I started like highlighting different artists, and people started responding. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a really cool way to connect with people and talk with people, and to be 100% transparent. My hope is that I can get something for free one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not much of an influencer.
Yeah.
I have tried. So I use a lot of teenage engineering synthesizers, mostly because, again, of their small footprint, right? It's really
great.
easy for me to...
But
they're
much
so
fun.
expensive.
Yeah, I know.
They're so expensive. I have tried so hard I've emailed Teenage Engineering so many times to try to get them to send me something for free, like trying to leverage like my Twitch audience or whatever to be like, oh, I'll make content and you can just send me this device. And they've said no every time. Most of the time they don't even respond, but then I've even gotten just no's.
They don't really support that many people, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I saw like the latest video of El Rey. He bought the next version of the OP1. How is it called? Like the
newer OP1
version.
Field?
No. There's a new one that just came out.
The new version of this, the OPZ. This is the first synthesizer I bought, and I love this. This thing is a workhorse. I've made so much on this, and I told my wife, the only problem with it is like the build quality of it isn't that great, but it was also only like $500, which is expensive, but still. I told my wife, if they release an updated version of this, I'm gonna buy it day one. It doesn't matter how much it costs. They released an updated version of it, and just for everyone listening, that updated version is $2,300 US.
Oh yeah, it's the device I'm talking about, and it's a combination of this one and the OP1.
Yes, and I can't afford it.
One day you will, or they will send it to you for free. Let's blow up with this podcast and they will see it and instantly send you one.
Oh, hold on. I'm hoping to buy one. It's 2025 and 2026. It's January 2025. I spent way too much money on my family vacation back to America. So I don't think it's in the cards this year to buy a new synthesizer. Maybe next year. But yeah, even he bought it, right? He's a big artist.
Yeah, exactly. And he also told in the video that that's not a placement. He had to buy it with his own money. And it's so funny. I just saw the video like yesterday, and today you brought this up. And it's interesting because I just went through the field recordings you sent it me, and I saw your Instagram stories. You had a microphone connected to the OP1. Is it the same microphone that you use in your Monday videos? Because it looks super similar, but it was in a different angle.
It is the same microphone. I actually left it at home because here at the studio I usually use this headset mic. It's a Tula mic.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
No, but they look so cool.
They look great together, right?
Mm.
It's a wonderful little microphone that does it does digital. So it's actually a field recorder itself. It has its own built-in memory, but I wanted to use the OP1 because I wanted to kind of monitor it a little bit more, you know, and have a little more. And also the OP1 saves higher quality files than the built-in recorder does. And but yeah, no, it's like only $300, and it works analog with these like 3.5 millimeter, like these really tiny baby ones. It works analog and it works USB-C. It's a fantastic little microphone. I use it all the time.
So are you using this one for streams as well?
No, I use this headset microphone because you can kind of see from this camera angle, I will turn to play piano. I usually work right here on this desk and move around. So at one point I did use that microphone on like a swing arm, and I would just, like you have right here, I would just move it around. But I ended up investing in a little headset mic to make it a little bit easier on myself.
Yeah, comfort is such a great help.
It's a big thing. But talking about those videos, so for the people listening, I have a bunch of music out. So all of this stuff is going to go back into my religious upbringing and how I related to music. And so for people who have been to like evangelical churches or like churches in America, often at like the end of the service, like the preacher will keep talking and someone will like get up and play like emotional like piano music underneath their talking, right? To like get people to like, you know, emotionally respond. And so I used to do that all the time. And it's funny because I was the youngest piano player that was good enough to do that. So always the preacher would be like, all right, like, you know, let someone come up. And like the line, like I would see all of the other piano players like look all the way down the line, right? Like, I'm not going to do it. Like there's like a pecking order of who's the best, right? And then like it comes down to me, you know, and I'm 16 years old, 17 years old. And it's just like, I guess I'm going to go play piano for 15 minutes. But I really love making music like kind of underneath something. I have a few albums out where I have some like chill electronic music under an ASM artist that I'm friends with. And I experimented with recording just at the local train station I live at here in Japan. And I actually made it like a fun day of it with my son. We recorded at a few different train stations and we like took the train together, right? Recorded together. It's a lot of fun. And it just turned out great. Like the vibes of it, of like, it reminds me of, I grew up in Chicago, which they have like a public transportation system, like a train system there and stuff. And it reminds me of being a teenager, you know, way back in the day with like my in-ear crappy headphones, like going somewhere and just listening to some music because you can still hear everything going on outside. And I was like, oh man, I want to make some beats like this.
The good time before noise cancellation.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And like, so I was like, oh, I would love that. Like, I just love that vibe. And then I was like, oh man, I actually bought, right? I bought your drum pack, which, hey, everybody go check out, or it's your Foley shaker pack. Yeah, everybody go buy Relaxicorn shaker pack. I still have to go through it and like set up the sample so I can put it on my OP1 because that's how I like to make music. But I had just bought another drum pack from Lo-Fi Cody.
Oh, the Humble Beats one. It's so good.
The Humble Beats one.
I use it a lot.
So I love it. It's so good. I love it. Guys, the secret to making music that you love is buy that sample pack you're looking at. And especially if that sample pack, for me, so I'm married. I've been married for 13 years. My wife and I, our number is under $20 US. If it's under $20 US, I don't need to have a conversation with my wife. I can just buy it.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So if there, right, I can just buy it. I don't have to be like, hey, I'm gonna buy this. So like, if there's a sample pack at like a sweet $10 to $15, man, I just pick it up. I'm like, I'll use it. And so I bought that sample pack, the Humble Drums pack. It really inspired me. And I was like, I'm going to make these Tokyo Station ones. And, but then I was like, oh man, I've been doing this music thing by myself, really. Even my collaboration with the ASM artist friend of mine is she's just allowing me to use her audio, right? We're friends. She's released a video and I'm just using the audio from it. And meeting Cody and all of you guys, I'm like, wow, like look at how much they collaborate. This is really cool. I was like, oh, I should invite them to be on this album. And then I was like, oh, instead of 15 tracks, I could make 30 tracks. I can have 2 separate albums, and this is going to be so cool. But then, and then I was like, oh, instead of recording 3 minutes, I'll record 6 minutes, and I'll do all this. And then I like looked at the math, and I'm like, oh my god, like 30 stations, 6 minutes a piece. That's 180 minutes just of recording. Let alone like I got to find the place, I got to take the train to the next station. And like I said earlier, 13 hours of I was recording for 13 hours yesterday.
Yeah, you spent the whole day.
Awesome.
And I really think it's
day.
great that you documentate that with your Instagram stories. And I hope you saved each individual of the recordings to make like a making of. So you can make let's say you take one of the beats or you take multiple beats, and then you can like do sync to the beat. You can like have it automatically arranged with the beat. If you just use CapCut, I guess you don't even need the pro version to get it beat synced. I'm not sure, but before you buy a pro version, just write me. I probably can invite like 1 or 2 people to share the account, like as a team.
Do you want to hear something brutal? I actually hand edit all of my own videos. I just use Final Cut, and I just do it all by hand. It's a friend of mine asked me, he was like, how do you do your videos? Do you like use like, do you use anything to automatically do it? I'm like, bro, that's why I don't have subtitles, because I don't automatically do it. Sometimes I've done it. I just have it. It's brutal. It's brutal. But maybe I'll just send you. I have all of them. Maybe I'll just. I should send the ones for the stations you guys are doing to each person who has a few stations. I should double check which one's which. This isn't a flex. This is how focused I was. I'm not all about the grind culture. I do love grinding. Don't get me wrong. I do love I was so hyper focused on get in, find a good spot, record, and get out before anyone says anything to me, that I did not drink anything, and I did not even go to the bathroom for like the 6 hours we were there. I didn't drink. I did take a break to eat. I had some Japanese noodles with the friend who went with me. And I didn't even feel thirsty. I didn't feel like I had to go to the bathroom. I didn't feel thirsty. But looking back, I totally was thirsty because I drank all of the broth in the soup too. Like I didn't just eat the noodles. I like drank everything. And I was like, all right, like we got 10 more stations. That's 60 more minutes plus 2 minutes to each station. So that's 80 more minutes, like plus however, like we got this. Let's go.
Yeah, but let's be honest. If it happens naturally, that's some of the best thing could happen to you when doing something, because you didn't force yourself. You just went naturally into this hyper focus moment, and that's actually when, in my opinion, and that's where where kind of my faith comes in. When things like that happen, something in the universe, let's say, if you say it's a God's will or just the will of the universe itself, then you are really doing what you need to do, in my opinion. And that's also a pretty funny thing, because you asked me about the religious part. I had a time, it was around 2017, and it was a wild year. For 1 year I discovered acid, And I really felt that everything is connected. Like there is a higher power. And I guess I kind of see the connection with religious aspects of a higher power. And then I had this crazy thought that no matter what religion you're in, that all is talking about the same thing, just with different words. And that's why this conflict start up, but totally doesn't make sense, because I guess everything is related to this one energy that floats through everything, through every living being, and connects humans with animals and plants and everything living on this earth is kind of connected. And so I still sometimes say about like this universal energy and God, but actually for me it's the same thing.
No, I said I'm a missionary, but I'm not really affiliated with an official organized religion. And I have a lot to say about that we don't need to get into on a music podcast. But one of the things that I very much agree with you on is that connection, and that, like, it's one of the things I actually love about music, honestly, is like, maybe, so when I played music in the House of Prayer, this is going to sound so weird, but like, there were people I met, and I only met them because we were like in a band together, right? Like, hey, Johnny's going to play piano. Here's a guitar player. Here's this, like, and they just like would throw us in, right? And it's like literally the first time I meet the guy, it's like, oh, hey, what's your name? Oh, I'm Luke. Oh, hey, I'm Johnny. Nice to meet you. And then we would like play music together, that specific group, 2 hours a week, every week for however long we kept that group. And it was a way of building this relationship that I had never like really thought of or experienced, of like how close we would be, like making music together, like that collaborative form. Like, this is, maybe people won't understand, but like listening to your album, hold on, what's it called? You released an album with Patriotic Records.
Oh, you mean the Riverside Whispers?
I
Probably
love
the long one.
I love that album.
Oh, thanks, man.
I really do. I love your tracks in it. And it sounds weird, but like I literally, so for the people watching, I actually share this studio with a visual artist who does all of my covers and all of that stuff, or my album covers. She works right there. And I do all of her social media, and she does all of my images. This is our exchange. And
that's pretty dope if you can like really help each other out.
It's so helpful.
Also having like a creative workspace with someone. I imagine this to be super interesting.
Oh yeah, we actually have an extra space right here. So if you ever come to Japan and want to visit, you can totally sit right here and make some beats. And yeah, hold on, I'll show you. Look, guys, I have a tripod there right now, but I have a space.
Yeah, but that's definitely on my bucket list to visit Japan in my life.
And come visit my very small studio. I love it. But
definitely.
When I was listening to your album, one of the things I told Chiho, my artist friend, because she was like, "Wow, this is really nice," and I was like, we're like listening to a part of his soul. That's usually what I tell. Like when I'm playing piano, I was like, I've been playing piano long enough. Like one of my other friends who lives on the other side of the country was visiting, and she made this comment that started this conversation. She was like, when Johnny plays piano, I can tell that he learned drums before he learned piano. He plays piano like a drummer. And I was kind of like, I guess I never really thought about it. And so then my friend sat down to the piano was playing, and I was making note of like just our different styles of piano playing. And I was like, and my visual artist friend was like, what do you hear when you hear her play? And I'm like, what do I hear? I hear her soul, Yeah, sure. It's like she's just playing a 2-5-1, but the way she's playing it and what she's deciding, like there is this thing that you put out there.
you have this natural swing. Even if 100 people do a cover song of one specific song, it will sound completely different on the how you play it, just how you press the keys. All of that makes a big difference. And just a little fun fact, there's probably 20 souls of musicians from all around the world on this album, because I
that's so
did the
awesome.
arrangement, I did the drums, the whole Foley scene. But as I told you before, I cannot play an instrument. So this was a super spontaneous act. It was a Sunday. I went to the gas station next door just to grab something to eat, because I had like a busy weekend and could not go grocery shopping before. And then I just like a 5-minute walk, and I had this idea like, what if I'm just actively searching from people that I don't know yet and get them to be on an album, and I do all the beats, because I was struggling so much with like coming up with melodies. Sometimes I'm really trying hard and then it doesn't sound good, and I like delete the track again. And yeah, since then I do nearly no track as a solo artist anymore, because it's kind of, you could say, like I'm dependent on instrumental artists that can really do an instrument. But on the other side, it's also artists out there that can play a guitar or a piano or a bass guitar or whatever, and they cannot make like a full song or make beats. And then it gets interesting, because both sides do what they love and what they can do the best, and the product is a nice sounding song.
Are you familiar with Andrew Huang on
Yeah,
YouTube?
yeah,
Yeah, of course.
definitely.
Like the yeah, his
Yeah.
the everybody wants to be Andrew Huang, right? Every instrument he touches, he's like an incredible virtuoso at it. As a multi-instrumentalist, what I would say to people is that like if you want to just do one instrument, that would probably be great. Because I learned drums very young, and piano is still technically a percussion instrument because, you know, the hammers and the strings and stuff, and just the way you interact with it, it's in the same category. And it was grueling work, you know. What I tell people, people will tell me, "Oh, Johnny, I love your piano playing," and I don't have any piano albums out. I will throw that out there as well. None of my music is piano music. Be like, Johnny, you're such a good piano player. Oh my gosh, you're so talented. You're so this. And I'm like, do you know, when I was in high school, this is not an exaggeration. I practiced piano 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, on top of performing and everything, because I wanted to get good. Because I have always had the luxury, I would say, of I've never been the best musician I know. I've always known a better drummer than me. I've always known a better piano player than me. And that has really encouraged me to always try to better myself. When I played drums, even from when I was like 14, I always would play with the same bass player who was like a grown ass man, and like in his like 30s and 40s. And every time we played together, like every week, he would just tear me apart after. And it's like at church, right? And afterward, he would bring up every time I like made a mistake. He'd be like, "Oh, here, you blew it. You didn't read the signal." Or because we're also doing improv, right? It's not just rehearsed stuff. We're doing like on the cuff stuff. He's like, "Here, you were speeding up too much here. It really affected here." Like, and he would just like lay it out for me every week for years. And so it's one of the reasons why I'm not very critical, because like I did not ask for that. But also, I mean, it made me a much better drummer over the years.
I just
of
want to
just
say
like,
that if it's constructive, if he just stay on the topic, like like you said, here speed up a bit or this and that. If it's super constructive and only about what you're doing and not who you are, because that's the best way of criticism, you can really grow from that. And I'm reading a lot of books, and most of the books I'm reading are like life philosophy or how to become like a better person or a more productive person, whatever. And this criticism point, if someone really gets on only the point of your work, you should not, you can, actually, you cannot take it personal because it's not who you are, it's just what you did. And this can be so helpful to really get better. I mean, in the beginning, I got a lot of feedback like, yeah, your drums are too stiff. Okay, cool. Then I knew what I have to improve to get this groove in, to get this, all this, how to better myself and make better
It's
music.
very true. This man, I would say it's about half. Half of it was personal attacks, but I was able to take good from it. That's why I would say it was still good. I still learned. It wasn't great having him say not nice things and like be kind of out of pocket about it. Like I've been at the time, it's like, dude, I've been playing drums for like 4 years. You've been playing bass for like 25 years. Give me a break, you know?
Yeah, when it gets personal, that's the worst someone can do in criticism.
But it did help a lot in the way that I was able to just take it and be like, okay, well then next week I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to keep doing that kind of a deal. But going back. So being a multi-instrumentalist, a lot of people want to do that, but you know, it's just hard. It's hard to be, and I would even say producing is almost like learning a different instrument. It's just so different. It's hard to reach a good level of competency at each one. And when you reach that level of competency, like, I don't know, the effort and the time that it takes to reach it, you know, like you could have put that into your other instrument too. Like, you know, all of those hours I spent practicing piano, I wasn't practicing drums. And so like I said, I play ukulele. That one's just for fun for me and my family, right? Like I play at the house and we sing songs together and stuff. But like, I don't think I'm not at the level to like record it into an album, I would say. And I don't plan on working that hard to get there. You know, like,
yeah, but as long as you're enjoying doing it with your family, then keep it as this, and just, as long as you're not worried about that you have to bring it up in your production, everything is cool about. And maybe
can I ask you
yeah, sure.
A weird question. Not a weird question, it's a very normal question. What DAW do you use?
I recently switched to Logic.
Oh, I am a DAW-less music producer, really. I do maybe 80 or more % of my work on a Groovebox, and then I send those files. I actually do all of my mixing and mastering now on, well, I did before, but I do it all on my iPad. I have a big iPad Pro. So for the people who are like, why would you do that? I have Logic on the computer too.
You can have it on the iPad.
Yes, I have it on the iPad as well. I have 3 reasons. And I wanted to say this because I actually want to encourage any music producers listening to your podcast. Well, let me go back. In 2018, I had tried quite a few times to get into music production, but it's just so different than performing. I never was able to crack it. And I actually went through a really sad time in my life, as you do. And it was the thing that spurred me on to learn how to produce music, right? Because I was pretty bummed, you know? And so like, I'm just gonna try and make some music. And at the time, I'm a huge believer in mobile devices. I don't have a laptop. I have just a desktop computer. And so I was like, how can I produce music if I don't have a laptop, right? Like if I don't have a way, like, with the desktop computer, with the way my house was set up, it just wasn't conducive for it. And I started looking up different apps that you could use because I also wasn't sure that I wanted to invest a lot of money into it. And so I found nowadays there's like even way better apps. But at the time, I found an app by Korg, the synthesizer company, called Korg Gadget. And it's like this little miniature DAW. Like you can produce full tracks in it, which I have, and then I usually send elsewhere to do other stuff in Logic. But I don't know what it was about that, but I really understood it. And I started making songs there. And I say that because, anyone listening, Korg Gadget runs on an iPhone. So I was actually like doing MIDI and stuff on my phone during like chill times. I was just like drawing MIDI on my phone, and I started getting into MIDI controllers and trying all these new things. And even now, I mean, a lot of people don't like that Logic Pro is subscription based, but it's $5 a month. Like for $5.
Oh, for the mobile device. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't buy it. It's $5 a month or $50 a year. But for $5 a month, you can try it, right? And I learned how to do it on there. I ended up buying my first synthesizer after watching so many YouTube videos of like, how do you do this and those kinds of things. And then I ended up streaming. And even still, I like to use my mobile devices for mixing and even mastering. I just enjoy it. And so anyone listening, don't feel... And I would say, if you listen to my music, most people don't know. Everyone is always surprised when I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I made that on an iPad. They're like, you made that on an iPad? But actually plugins, a lot of plugins are also on the iPad as apps. And so like the Fab Filter plugins, instead of $200 for Q3, it's $25. And it's the same plugin. I have it on the computer and I have it on my iPad. It's exactly the same.
Plugins are the best of the best,
They're
in my opinion.
So good.
Yeah.
And so like you can buy there, especially if it's on sale, like a winter sale or something, or a summer sale, you can buy all of their plugins for the cost of one plugin on the desktop.
Okay. On the mobile, you mean? Because on
desktop? On the mobile. Yeah, it's because it's cheaper. I have all of Eventide's reverbs and stuff because instead of $200, it was like $15 and such. And so plugins and such, nice like third-party plugins, which you don't need. I should throw that out there. You don't need those, but they can be inspiring to work with, which is helpful.
And some really are, I say, I could not produce without a Sooth too. Meanwhile,
Sooth, that's one they don't have on iPad. I want it so bad.
That's like the one plugin I could really not work without. Everything else, the Logic stock plugins are great because I switched after like 7 years of using Reason, and I was so surprised how well the stock plugins of Logic are. Even the synthesizer are so powerful.
And they sound so nice. They sound great. And also, so I've talked a lot about my performance background, but also I learned how to be as sound engineering as well. So I didn't just play music, but I also was a sound tech at the time. And being able to move a fader with my finger instead of clicking on a mouse or doing that, or like when I'm turning knobs, I'm actually touching the knob and like kind of moving my finger. It sounds like it doesn't matter, but I've tried both, and to me, I like it more. I don't know. There's something about it that I enjoy using my hand more than using a mouse.
Yeah, I totally get that point. It's, I had a super big MIDI keyboard where you could like route every knob from your DAW and to faders where you can work by hands. I loved it, but this thing took so much place. So at the point I had to like sell it because I just didn't have the space for it.
But all of that to say, you can make awesome music without, like, people tell you need certain things, but like you don't need those things, right? Like you can make awesome music with what you have available to you. And for me at the time, I only had an iPhone and an iPad, and the music sounds great. I heard this really awesome. Are you familiar? You probably are. Are you familiar with T-Pain?
Oh yeah, sure. The rapper.
T-Pain streams on Twitch,
Oh, what?
and yeah, he streams on Twitch. He's unironically a really great streamer. Like he gets it. He's not like a famous person on the platform that doesn't get it. Because I've been on Twitch now for like 4 years. I've raided him a few times. I have a couple clips of him being like, "Hey Johnny, thanks for the raid." Like it's my heart.
Lovely.
It's like, oh man, he said my name. But he told this story once on stream about how he was gonna. I don't remember the track, but he was like gonna, be featured on some track, and he was at the airport, and they were like, "We need your track now. We need your vocal now." And he was like, he recorded it on a laptop microphone in the bathroom, in the public bathroom of the airport. He just sang his part. And it's a hit, right? Like it was huge. And he was just like, people tell you need this. He's like, let me tell you what microphone I use. I just held my laptop and I sang into it in a bathroom. And that's the recording we used for it. Which it challenges a lot of things. I thought about when I went to collect these samples in Tokyo, I was like, I wonder if anyone's going to comment on that, like, oh, you're not using like a stereo mic, or you're not using like, all of these things. And it's like, the best microphone or the best DAW is the one you have, right?
I can completely agree on that. And also, I would say, by not doing the things the typical way, like he recorded his vocals in a public bathroom. You have the worst acoustic treatment in a bathroom. But on the other side, you have this natural reverb in this room that is so unique and cannot be replicated by no plugin. And sometimes just doing things completely the opposite way of how they used to go can really create something new and something special that nobody heard about yet, and is asking like, wow, why is this so cool? And on this point, I just want also to encourage the listeners to just try out everything, and in the most weird way. That's why I'm not a big fan of going to a school for production. There are a ton of them. I guess the really good part of them is to build a network, obviously. But you can build a network easily without being in a music school or something. And you can teach yourself basically everything in the time we're living in. Also the same with like YouTube tutorials. I watch them for inspiration. I never copy something like one-to-one. Sometimes I just see a little aspect how, or what I really love is that realization moment to really understand this plugin does this in this way, and then just experiment it with the knowledge of it, because then you can really adjust it how you want it when you're understanding it. And yeah, and you really don't need a lot of thing for when it comes down to music. It's really fun that you brought that up with the mobile device, because in the last 3 podcast recordings that are all not out yet, the one that is coming out today, Sunday, so next week, he makes all the beats on the iPad too. He used this koala sampler.
Oh my gosh, I have it. It's so good.
And then 1 week later, I had another guest who's working with Ableton, but also discovered the koala sampler and now is making beats on the iPad and then send it over to Ableton just for the mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
exactly.
I really have to give it a try myself. Like, you can hop on a couch, make it really comfortable, take your iPad and just like make your thing. And let's say changing the environment where you're doing art can also have such a great impact on your creativity. It's probably the fifth time I bring his name up, but I'm currently reading that book from Rick Rubin, and it's such a game changer. I don't know, have you heard about him or read
I
his
have
book?
not. I have not. I will pull it up really quick. Hold on. Rick Rubin. But no, go ahead. Tell me. Tell me.
He's a huge influence in the music scene.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I
That's
know his face from Def
yeah,
Jam. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And he had like a big influence when the first hip hop records were made, because he kind of understood that the feeling in the club when DJs are doing their thing and making their and looping the drum break by just buying two copies of the record and like spin it back and forth. Um, that this feeling needs to go to the studio to make the record sound like an MC spitting to a live DJ performance in the club. Because the first records in this hip hop genre were super clean. They were produced like a pop song would be produced. And it just didn't catch up the feeling. But anyway, in his book, he shares so much wisdom about what you can do if you're having a creative block, or if you're feeling stuck in a production. What can you do to get unstuck? Let's say he brought up that amazing thing about a vocalist in the studio who was kind of stuck in the progress, and then he switched off all the lights and let her sing in the complete dark, and then it turned into a banger just by changing some aspects. And
Right, of the atmosphere.
yeah,
That's so cool. The there's Andrew Huang released there was this big controversy around he made these cards, and the cards were like supposed to help you if you're stuck with, like, they had like chord progressions, or they had like rhythms and different like ideas to help inspire you. And people felt that the art looked like AI art, which, to be fair, it did. And he brought up that, he actually worked with an artist who does but he commissioned these from this artist before like the big AI craze, and the artist worked in like on Photoshop. And so what they would do is they would take stock images and they would kind of combine these stock images to make interesting things. But the idea is just like the cards, which you can assign that in any way, right? Like the cards mean these different things, and you just randomly draw them and you get this wonderful randomized thing. And yeah, you can't buy them. He stopped selling them. I want to try some, because like you talked about making the beats and kind of the atmosphere, but sometimes you struggle with melodies. I feel very similar. I spend a lot longer trying to construct a melody, because like I have a drum background, so like it's not really a big deal. I don't really overthink it.
So
I just kind of make a drum beat.
do you then start your production with the drum first and write the melody on top of it? Or are you starting with the melody and put the drums on top of the melody?
I have gone back and forth. So for a while I would do drums first, and then I would put the melody on top. Recently I was doing melody first and then adding drums. But recently as well, I've started just not doing that at all and just doing drums first again. Or, this will be weird, I'll do melody and then drums, and then I have to redo the melody to like kind of match the feel of the drums that I want to do more. But a friend commented to me recently that I should be doing it the other way, and I was like, "What are you talking about? Don't tell me how to like produce my own music."
Yeah.
And I
Good reaction.
I tried it. Yeah, gut reaction is like, "What do you know about music? Nothing." And but I tried it, and I was like, "Wow, it really is better." Like
What is better
that
now?
was fun. I've been doing the drums first,
Okay, because
and
I really need to
I've
get
enjoyed
into
it.
this. For me, personally speaking, for me, the melody is always what catches my attention the most. But I can do drums, I cannot do melodies. But I can do melodies and chords when it's in C major because you can press all the white buttons and you're good.
Yeah,
You're
that's
good
true.
to go.
It's true.
And yeah, I kind of stopped being so focused on having like a learning theory, what is super dry and everything. Sometimes I just take the piano and something nice comes up, sometimes not. But yeah, by I recently switched to starting with the drums, and it's so much more fun starting with something that you actually better at or good
I
at.
agree.
And for me, it's the whole production side that's really the most fun doing, experimenting with effects and all that kind of stuff that you do in the production side. And I tried to learn guitar when I was a child. I had no talent for, like, let's say, the rhythm was okay, but like just get to know all these chords, or sometimes like this barre chords where you have to put your
Oh
finger
man,
on the whole
brutal.
fret. I tried so hard and I practiced. I just was never able to get like a clean sounding bar chord out of this. I practiced for like a year daily and just didn't work out. And I kind of nearly gave up my dream on this till
Oh wow,
I went back with first I went into DJing. That was after a accident with my foot from skating, so I could not walk, and the friend teach me how to DJ, and I instantly went full in. I really practiced every day, get some gigs. It went so far that I went into making my own label and
oh really?
organize my
Wow,
own parties. And then I discovered producing. uh, and that was the best thing that could happen because I prefer that to this performance aspect of being up all night. I really loved that time, to be honest, when I was younger. But now I'm really enjoy just waking up, making a coffee on a Sunday morning, just hop from the kitchen in this. I call it the creative room. That's so funny.
mm.
My
Oh that's cool.
my
Yeah, I
music
like
room.
that.
I made like a super bad picture on Canva and wrote there with big letters creative room, printed that out and glued it on my door.
That's perfect.
Just to give the room a name, And yeah, that really gets into me. And then I came to the point where I was like, yeah, I cannot like use always just melody loops or such stuff because it was cool for in the beginning. For techno, I didn't need that, but when switched into chill beats, and it was cool in the beginning, but after a while, I start like recognize that, yeah, other people do beats with the same samples, and I was kind of frustrated about that. So I really try harder to learn, make it by myself. And with this album that we talked about, it was like such a relief just to see it's A, easy to connect with other artists, and B, it's so much fun working with other artists. Let's say I'm I was just like making a photograph of a tree, to be honest, and just wrote in with the text for a reel that I want to produce an album, and I'm looking for different instrumentalists that are interested in being a part of this chill beats project. And it was so cool. I spent like a $25 advertisement budget, and I got like 100 DMs.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
And from the 100 DMs, I got like 30 recordings sent in, and with 20 I could really work. Some were kind of there was this one example, and I'm actually not talking bad about nothing, but there was a phone recording of a guitar, and in the background you hear the metronome louder than the guitar. And I was like,
wow.
Yeah, sorry bro, but I can really not work with that.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. I'm so sorry.
I mean, the phone recording part would be okay, but just like take headphones on and listen to the metronome on the headphones, that it's not recorded as well. But I never heard from this guy back. Maybe he just wanted to troll me, I don't know. Could be. I mean, that was a thought that I had as well, so maybe he just wanted trolling around a bit, you know?
It's interesting because, like, for me, I have this project I've been wanting. So, like I said, I really enjoy working with like speaking vocals, which I know sounds weird, but like I really like that, right? So it's not singing, it's speaking. And
yeah, I know that's great.
Yeah,
that's a
like I love
thing.
to work. Yeah, I love to work with speaking vocals. And I've had this one EP, and I'm going to throw this out there if anyone wants to make this. I've had this one EP fall through with like multiple people now. I had a friend who was studying zoology, like the study of animals, and she specifically loved birds. And we were going to make an album called Burbs, B-I-R-B-S, where she was like in a David Attenborough, like talk about like her favorite kinds of birds. And I was going to like make some beats under it. Super excited. And she like fell off the face of the earth and we stopped talking. And then I started talking with someone else, a friend online, who was just like, I just joined the bird watching club. And I was like, what did you say? You just started to join the bird watching club? And like, hey, let me tell you about this project that's been on the back burner for 3 years. Like, and she was like, oh man, I really want to be a part of that. Yeah, I'm super excited. Da 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 da. And she was like gonna get me those recordings this week, back in September. So that's not really going anywhere either. And also, you know, I'm not her mom, so I'm not going to pressure her. But this idea of like taking out an ad for it, that's not a bad idea. I guess until working with you guys, like with Lo-Fi Cody and the people he's introduced me to, I've worked with one rapper who's actually like a personal friend of mine, and I've not had great work with other creatives. I feel like a lot of people want to do stuff, but they don't actually do it. And this is a good...
that's a big issue. And with the community that, like you said, Cody and I were in, and also other guests that will come up on the podcast, I have to tell you about it after the podcast, because we have actually a really nice Discord community where we really exchange and looking for collaborators, and it's usually super easy. I posted that I want to make this Rune Factory cover album because I discovered the game and I loved it. And yeah, it took like 1 week to get 5 collaborators or 6 collaborators on it. And all the people in this community are super active. And it's from this he does mainly Pokemon covers.
Cool.
Tenoshi, probably heard from him.
Oh yes.
And
yes.
it's his community, and what I really like about that, he really goes through how do you call that, application progress. So
interesting.
I remember he hit me up on Instagram and told about his that he found my music, that he liked it, and he also see that I release every week and have a constant workflow, and that this could be a good fit for this community. And but there was, I can remember we chatted for a while, like over several days, and then he was like, yeah, that's a great fit, come to our community. And the good part about this is, like, all the people inside there are really interested in making music and putting it out. And it's absolutely not about you have to be a perfect artist yet. And it's also a really cool video that Tanoshi put on YouTube where he said, like, release every week and then take notes what you could do better the next song. And by doing that, let's say you release 52 songs in a year. And every time you listen back to a release that you did and just note one thing to improve on the next beat, you will improve 52 different things within a year. And that's like a quality growth of, I don't know, 200, 300%. And then you repeat that and you repeat that till you, on the one side, you really find your personal touch. You know, by doing a lot, you really get your personal touch. And I had this on another podcast as well. It's not about creating your own specific synthesizer sound design. It's just the way you compress or the way you use reverb can be your thing, because you get this routine and then it forms into your specific sound. It doesn't have to be something super spectacular, but it's a lot of small things that you start doing over and over again that really forms your individual style. So, and there's also this one rule that your first 100 beats will sound bad, no matter what. And then after having 100 beats released, you will really recognize a big change when listening to your first productions and your current ones. And then the motivation kicks in. It doesn't come in the beginning. The motivation comes really through being consistent and staying on your path. And it takes a long time to really hear the improvement, see the improvement, same with streaming numbers, let's say. And after getting over this threshold of you have to grind hard, it will flip into like the sunny side, and you will be happy with your production. You will feel comfortable when starting a new song. There will still be moments where you're doing a track and you're like, oh, this sounds kind of lame. This always happens, but it doesn't bring you out of track. It just start redoing it completely from scratch. This is something I had to do on a song as well. Let's say I'm super comfortable with mixing, and we had this 3-person collaboration that comes out in 2 weeks, but before this podcast is out. Funny, but and yeah, I got like several inputs, like yeah, this doesn't sound good, this doesn't sound good, and I always like try to focus on this little improvement here and there, till at the one point of like version 8 of the new mix, I was like, okay, you know what, I'm dry out every single stem. I make them completely dry. I normalized them to be all 0 dB, and now I'm doing the whole progress as if it would be a whole new song. And trust me, within 1 hour I had the best mix done. Instead of like every day changing a little tweak here and there,
Right.
and there and there. But this comfortable came after years of doing it. It doesn't came from today I want to start make music and tomorrow I make hits like Billie Eilish.
Right. It's interesting because, like, for me, one of the things I've told people when I'm making music on Twitch, because one of the questions I get a lot, there's a lot of music performers on Twitch. You don't see a ton of people on Twitch doing music production. And so it always brings in an interesting amount of people, and people, have questions, or like they are also producers and they have questions about what. And one of the things that I come up against a lot is people who are just not able to release anything. And one of the things I talk about is I'm like, there is a really good skill to have of knowing like this is as far as I'm going to take this. This is good enough. It sounds maybe terrible as from like an artist perspective, but like this is good enough.
If
like
you're
I'm happy with
it.
this.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I'm happy with this. This is good enough. And like you said, man, when you were like you could just keep tweaking and keep tweaking. Me personally, I can't keep tweaking. I gotta just, and even when you talked about like going back and just starting over, I would rather start a totally new track than tweak, like I have such a hard time with that. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah,
Brutal.
but this example was something a little bit different. Let's say if I start doing a track and I'm not happy with it, I usually delete it. But this was like a 3-person collaboration, and it was
Of course.
only about the mix. And yeah, after getting super comfortable with mixing, because I think that's one of my biggest skills in production, it was kind of a weird feeling, that there came inputs for this little specific thing and this little specific thing, till I realized that, yeah, too much tweaking killed the track. So I had to redo it to make something good from scratch. It's still the same melodies, same drums, same everything. But I was probably not, or working too long on this one specific mix, that it blurred out on a lot of different stuffs. And then I just redid it with my own personal basics, that I know, okay, first I'm gonna leveling, then I'm gonna pan everything, then I'm gonna do the send effects and the compression and everything. And then it was a little work, but I followed my own rules in mixing and did it like in one continuing progress, and then it sounds fine, sounds good. Everyone was happy with this.
As someone who likes mixing, I guess I have a question for you. Do you enjoy working on your own tracks or other people's tracks more?
On other people's tracks, to be honest.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Because there's actually a explanation for that, and I would say most mixing engineers could agree on that. Is when you're producing the song and you hear it over and over again, your ears get so
it's true.
So
tired,
no, and also used to the track. Let's say, do you know this feeling when you're discovering a track and in the first moment you think, oh, I hate this track, but then you hear it over and over again, and then you start really enjoying the track and starts to love that track after listening to it like 10 times, and it becomes from a track that you disliked in the first listening to your most favorite track. Did you had that already?
Yes. Yeah, I've experienced this, yes.
And that's when your ears get used to a sound, and then it doesn't sound off anymore. Then it sounds glued and well. And I guess the secret of mixing nowadays is that everything has to go fast. People's attention span is small. That means the mix have to sit perfect in the first listener's experience. Otherwise, they will never go back to this track again. And I experienced that back in the days when I was younger. And let's say you buy a CD from an artist you like. And there were like, you listen to the whole CD. And then there's this one track that you disliked in the first listening, but after listening to the whole CD 10 times, it becomes your most favorite song. That's because you spent money to buy the CD. You have maybe 5 or 6 other CDs at home when you're a child and don't have much money to build a collection. But you're kind of also bored of the other CDs because you listen to them so much or so many times. And same comes down to mixing. let's say you work for 3 hours on a track, what I usually try to avoid when doing chill beats, because then I know, okay, this song is probably not good when I have to work so long on it. The inspiration is not kind of there, because when when your inspiration is on top and you get into this workflow, then you can make a banger in, let's say, an hour or two. But after spend like 3, 4, 5 hours for a simple beat, then it's probably not good. And when it comes down to mixing, you could wait for a month, of course, but I like to finish tracks. I produce them, and then I wait till the next free morning. And since I work a full day job, I wait for Saturday and Sunday morning. That's when I'm doing the mixing. Because, yeah, then the ears are not tired after a night of rest.
For me, I do a little opposite. I like to bank it. So for me, I will be in a composing mood, and so I'll just start banging them out. Like you said, I'm in the zone, and I start doing them, and I do that, and I export them off of my. I will also export them and get them into the DAW, and I'll set them up. Right, I'll put all the tracks in and everything, but then I don't mix it. And then when I no longer feel like creative for composing, it's like, oh, well, like I have time set aside to work on music. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna start mixing now. I'll mix. And then some of them, it's like, oh man, I haven't heard this. Like, it's like what you said, I haven't heard this in a while. Okay. And I start to mix through it, and that's how I tend to go. I tend to ride a creative wave. And when I don't want to say creative, because you are creative when you're mixing.
Yeah, it's also a very creative part.
But it's different. It's a different kind of creativity. And so when my composing creativity is like feeling down, and I'm like, I don't want to do this right now, that's when I'm like, I'm in the mood for mixing. I would like to do that. But anyway, so for me though, it's the opposite of, like you said, you want to just finish it right away. I'll let them sit for a while and come back to them later. Interesting.
Yeah, because of this one aspect that I told you, I want to finish them so I can call it done and then start improving on the parts that I didn't like in the next song.
That makes sense.
Another fun fact, why I love mixing so much is I really also love like cleaning. When vacuuming a super dusty place, let's say you move your bed and there's a lot of dust underneath, and then you vacuum it and it shines. I kind of love that. And same as when getting songs sent over to mix them, you always see a little bit dust here and there, and then you start mixing it, and you have like an instant improvement. I have some friends from like my city and from the old techno scene that went into producing, and they really want to release tracks and send it over for feedback. And I'm like, yeah, the idea is great, but the mix is like, you really have to dig into it. And then I offered them, hey, send it over, I mix it for you so you can work on other projects and don't have to spend like 100 hours learning how to mix it properly. And you will get a better result anyway when not mixing your own tracks. That's this unwritten
That's
rule.
how it is.
Yeah. And I really love that, you start to leveling everything so it sounds good. Then you remove all the muddiness, you send it back, and then the creator of this track is like, wow, this sounds so good. And the same you think while doing it. That's why I enjoy mixing for others a lot.
That's awesome. It's true. Yeah, it's very true. Of like, when my rapper friend, he took one of my beats and he rapped on it and he sent it to me. Man, that was awesome. Like hearing it like that, like I tried to write something for him and I couldn't. And yeah, when you get to hear something else, my first collaboration, I'm doing a collaboration with Cody for Humble Beats, and I'm excited. He wants to master the tracks, and he said, "Oh yeah, it sounds mostly fine. I'm not gonna change very much, but I want to do it anyway." I'm so excited to hear how it sounds. I'm so excited to be like, what is he gonna do, man? What's he gonna do with it? I'm pumped.
He does so good mixes. He does really good mixes and masters. I really love collaborating with him as well. And that's so cool because he sent me the mastered tracks back from our collaboration, and I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great.
I think so. Going back a little bit to the multi-instrumentalist thing, for me, I feel like we talked about producing is kind of like learning a new instrument. And I think it's so important as a producer to recognize with like the kind of stuff you make, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. So like for me, I feel like mixing it, I enjoy mixing to a degree, but I know I don't see it as like the same art form that like you do. To me, it's very functional of just like, I'm just taking this and doing that. And it's interesting because I think people feel like that's wrong. Like, oh, Johnny, you're doing music wrong. It's like, well, no, it's not that it's wrong. It's that this goes back to how I relate to music and these different things. And this is where collaboration and all of those things turn something into something more than it could have been, right? Because it's like, oh no, we're all doing like, this isn't the part that I like to do, like you talked about, right? Of like getting someone else to do it. And going all the way back to Andrew Huang, one of the things that's hard is you see influencers like Andrew Huang is a great music producer, but he also is an influencer, right? You see these influencers and these people who have like these like, wow, like I want to be just like that. But it's like, there's lots of artists out there who really hone and perfect their craft. And there's something really nice about that, like maybe I should send some, have you master an album for me. That would be wonderful because that's my least favorite part, collab on something. And that's something that I think, I don't know, I also like you learned a lot on YouTube, and there's like this weird push to like do everything yourself, but you said it, right? Doing your own mixes, it's not going to be as good as someone else doing it, just period. Like that's just the way it is. That or like one of the ones, I love presets. And don't get me wrong, I tweak presets all the time of like, okay, this is a really great starting point, I'm going to do that. But I've also come across like if you don't create every single one of your own sounds, you're not really a producer kind of people.
That's BS, man. That's so not true. And I have a fun story about that. There's this
go ahead.
There's this one synthesizer in Reason, the DAW that I start working with, and there's a synthesizer called Subtractor. And the first initial preset is called Bass Guitar, and it's on 50% of my early day chill beats because I love it. It's such a great bass. It's on every aspect. It's great. It fits to every track that I did.
It's perfect.
And it's the initial preset when just loading it as one synthesizer.
No, that's perfect. And it's just like, exactly, because it's not the preset, right? It's the music. If it serves the song, it's great. But like, no, same. I made a bass. Oh man, how many years ago now? Like in 2019, I made this bass and I still use it on a lot of stuff. Because I'm just like,
do that.
It's so great. It sounds so great. I made it for this one album, and half the time when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna add a bass to it, I'm like, I'm gonna just use this bass that I made. I'm just gonna use that one. That one's nice.
I would say, let me just skip this one little also advice for the listeners, and then I would come to my famous last question of the podcast, because we're already into it for 90 minutes. It's so funny how I always like try to set it up for like 60 minutes, but it most of the time ends up between 90 and 120 minutes.
No, that's fine. I should get dinner at some point.
But I would say we also have to hop on a second episode like in a month or something, just to like kind of reflect and stuff. I also don't want to get new guests every single week. Sometimes it's nice to get back to a conversation that you started, and maybe we both take something out of it, you know. I take something out of it that you said, probably you take something out of it what I said, and then we can like reflect on that and maybe get on other things. No, what I want to say is, if you're a producer or an artist or a musician, you really don't have to reinvent
the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time new. If you have like this one drum pack that is fitting perfectly for you, just use it on every beat. If you have this one snare that you really like, use it on every second beat. If you have this bass synth that really fits your style, this exactly
like this one here. Everyone listen to this beautiful snare from Humble Beats. Oh, I love it.
I'm pretty sure that I used exactly this one on 1 or 2 beats in the last month after getting it.
That's so good.
It is. Shout out to Cody.
Yeah, shout out to Cody. Everyone go buy that pack and use that snare. Beautiful.
Okay, and then I would say my famous last question is, you probably heard one of the podcasts that are already out, but there's already 2. Just 2. One comes out in 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, I'm excited.
The number 3. Yeah, it's a really great one. And the famous last question is, if you could share any kind of life advice for the listeners, and it don't have to be music related at all. Could be anything.
I would say, to give a little background, I've lived in Japan 10 years. I would say buy a bidet.
What's that?
A bidet is the thing that shoots water in your butt after you use the bathroom. Buy a bidet. It'll change your life. If you use one, you know. And if you don't use one, it'll change your life. The worst part of going to America was not having a bidet for 2 weeks.
Fair point.
If you're listening and you don't have a bidet, buy one.
Yeah, for me, I'm always buying the most premium toilet paper as well.
Oh,
like
perfect.
The softest and
exactly.
Just like it's a bit more expensive, but it's for you and your daily use.
And it's like and I want to live my life. I have this tissue over here that's like the lotion tissue paper, so it's nice on your nose. And always my friends are like, "Wow, Johnny, you have so much money. You buy the lotion tissue." I'm like, "It's like $1 extra."
Yeah,
you exactly. You go to Disneyland 3 times a year. Yeah. I'm buying $1 extra tissue. Like, chill out.
Yeah, exactly. And let's say
it makes me happy.
People go out for bars and clubs and pay like $15 for a drink that costs the bar $2 to make. Then better save on this and invest into small things that makes your life more comfortable and better. Yeah. That's great advice.
Yeah. But thank you so much for having me on. This has been so much fun. I really liked it.
And thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Of course.
Have this nice chat.
Of course.
And let's say goodbye to the listeners. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
And see you next week.
Yes.